Week 1 of Big Brother 26 has come and gone, but how have the events of the week broken down and what are the social dynamics like in this crazy, absolutely insane house? Well, that's why I'm here. In this video, I'm going to recap the events of week 1 of Big Brother 26 and give my first ever power rankings of the entire season. So with all of that preamble out of the way, it is the one and only RJ21 here, and let's get to the Big Brother 26 week 1 recap and power ranking. After the events of the premiere, we get some downtime before the first HOH competition of the season. It's in this downtime where we learn about the upgrades that Makensy and Quinn got after winning their respective competitions in the premiere. Makensy got the America's Veto upgrade, which essentially works as a second veto, but instead of the HOH or Makensy naming the replacement nominee, America would vote on who the third nominee is. It's honestly kind of crazy thinking about how we're only going to get 1 day of voting to determine who that third nominee is going to be, but that's besides the point. Quinn's upgrade is the deepfake HOH, which is essentially the identity theft power app from Big Brother 20. Essentially, Quinn can hijack any head of household, completely taking over control of it. Quinn will be able to name all of the nominees, including the replacement nominees, and Quinn's identity will remain hidden throughout the entire reign. In addition, Quinn can use this deepfake HOH to create a deepfake to spread lies and rumors and mistrust throughout the entire house. I don't know how this part of that deepfake HOH is going to work, but it'll be interesting to see play out nonetheless. In more of the downtime, we see a conversation between Angela and Matt in the bathroom, where Angela is trying to make jokes about how Matt is going to get into a showmance because he is the kind of stereotypical hot guy that would be in any given season of Big Brother. And Matt takes personal offense to this and almost receives this as a bit of like a threat, and Angela putting a target on Matt's back, which wasn't Angela's intention at all, but with Matt coming into this house knowing how those preconceived notions could damage his game, Matt definitely took offense to that and perceived that as Angela targeting him and coming after him. The HOH competition ends up being the new rule HOH competition, which is basically a really big version of shuffleboard, but every single round the rules of the game change. So in the first round they get to compete in teams, but in the next round they have to compete against their team members, and they're just going to go through the rounds until they get to the final round. The final round ends up having Angela, Leah, and Kenney, with Angela winning the first head of household of the season. Angela is struggling with her nominations as there isn't really much information for Angela to go off of, and Cedric and Chelsie, two people who I personally thought would be the easiest nominees to make, were essentially given safety in that basically the entire house deemed their downgrade as way too unfair, making it so Cedric and Chelsie were not even options to be nominated this week. So Angela didn't really have any information to go off of. However, Matt was voicing his concerns about Angela being the HOH and how Matt was nearly confident about how he could be going up on the block because of the little tiff that Angela and Matt had in the bathroom a couple days prior. Joseph hears this information and tells Angela about how Matt is throwing Angela's name out there and how Matt feels threatened by Angela and how Matt is concerned about being a replacement nominee. And this definitely sets off a lot of alarms in Angela's head. Angela and Matt go into the HOH room and they attempt to talk things out, talking about how it was essentially one really big misunderstanding and how feelings were misconstrued and how the wrong messages were just given off. And Angela did apologize for her actions, but Matt makes this conversation go from really good to really bad, in that Matt was saying, you know, if I were to win an HOH next week and you were to target me, it's like we can go tit for tat, and it's like I will target you next week. Obviously, Matt said this in a bit of a joking manner and saying that it's the game of Big Brother and that if you target me, I'm going to come after you. But Angela perceived this as a genuine threat from Matt, and this made Matt probably the biggest target in Angela's mind at that point in the game. In this time, we also see a conversation between Angela and Quinn, where Quinn reveals his power to Angela, essentially creating a final two between the two of them called the BB guns, solidifying a lot of trust between the two of them. At the nomination ceremony, Angela chooses to nominate Kenney, Kimo, and Lisa, with Kenney as the target, as Kimo and Lisa just didn't do enough strategizing and socializing in the first couple of days to build a solid enough bond with Angela, and Kenney came off as a bit of a threat with how he performed in the first HOH competition. So Kenney was the initial target, but Angela still had her eyes on Matt at that time. After the nomination ceremony, Makensy reveals her power to Matt and Leah, disclosing that she is the one who won America's Veto and basically describes how that power works. On the other side of the house, a huge, and I mean huge, initial majority alliance consisting of 8 people, consisting of Cam, Cedric, Chelsie, Joseph, Kimo, T-Core, Quinn, and Angela forms called the Collective. Now, this was supposed to be the big initial majority alliance of the season. However, Angela doesn't trust it. Angela's paranoia was running rampant at this point, and she genuinely couldn't trust any of the information that was being given to her because she assumed that it was the entire house versus Angela. Seeing how Matt and Makensy were essentially socializing with everybody in the house, and Angela perceived that as Matt rallying the troops against Angela. So she didn't trust this alliance, despite it probably being a very real alliance that could have taken her pretty deep in the game. That night, paranoia absolutely consumes Angela, and she stays up into the late hours of the night just constantly talking to herself about how everything she's been receiving in this game is fake, and how Matt has been the ringleader of it all, and how she needs to target Matt and get him out of this house. So the very next morning, Angela comes down the stairs in a very dramatic manner, slowly clapping, and everybody joining in on her, assuming that it was going to be just some pretty big and fun thing. But Angela starts it all off by saying, "Matt, Matt, Matt," and Angela absolutely explodes on Matt. Angela essentially calls out Matt to the entire house, saying how Matt verbally and aggressively threatened her in the HOH room, and how Matt has been running this entire game and been very cocky and saying that he has been running this entire house and how he has everybody in his pocket, and calls him crazy eyes, like a lot. Like, calls him crazy eyes essentially throughout the entirety of this fight and throughout basically the rest of this week. Matt tries deflecting the conversation and attempts pointing out Angela's very aggressive behavior in this moment, talking about how his mom is going to be seeing a fellow mom talk down to her son. And then Angela then rebuttals this by talking about how Matt's mom is going to see how much of a brat Matt is. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back in Matt's mind, as after this fight, Matt was crying and sobbing throughout the entire house about how his mom was going to see this, and how Matt almost felt like ashamed in how Angela attacked his character and brought his family into this, even though technically Matt brought his family into this, but that's besides the point. The HouseGuests then picked players for the veto competitions, to where Angela, the HOH, and the 3 nominees in Kenney, Kimo, and Lisa will be competing along with 2 other HouseGuests selected by random draw, which end up being Joseph and Brooklyn. The veto competition ends up being the spelling bee competition, which is basically the spelling competition that we've seen in previous seasons, to where HouseGuests need to spell the longest correct word, and whoever does that will win the power of veto. However, this competition has a twist, to where if you find a delete dot, you can eliminate a letter from play, where nobody can use that letter in their official words. Ultimately, Lisa ends up coming out on top and winning the first power veto of the season. Despite Matt pushing very hard for himself to not go up on the block by either convincing Lisa to not use the veto on herself or pushing other possible replacement nominees in Tucker or T-Core, his efforts were all for naught, as at the veto ceremony, Lisa used the power veto on herself and Angela named Matt as the replacement nominee. We then get to the live eviction episode where Kenney, Kimo, and Matt compete in the BBAI arena, to where if one of them wins this competition, they will immediately be taken off of the block, leaving the other 2 as the final nominees. This competition is glitched in the system, to where a bunch of videos of the HouseGuests are going to be playing, and the competing HouseGuests need to identify who appears the most out of all of these videos. Ultimately, Kimo ends up winning this competition, leaving Kenney and Matt as the official nominees. At the eviction vote, by a vote of 8-3, Matt is evicted from the Big Brother 26 house, officially becoming the first HouseGuest to be evicted.
The winner of the very first BBAI arena is Kimo. Gentlemen, come.
Now it's time to get into the power rankings. At number 16, the first HouseGuest evicted from the Big Brother house, and my preseason winner pick, we have Matt. And this makes me look dumb. Like, all things aside, like, me picking Matt as my preseason winner pick makes me look stupid. Like, there is no way I could have predicted the way Matt was going to act in this house based on how he was saying his answers in the preseason. I honestly thought he was giving really good answers in the preseason. But man, I was so wrong. I did not know Matt was going to be the crazy eyes of the season, you know? I had no idea. And while he was an absolutely horrible game player, I mean, I think he definitely could be in the conversation for one of the worst Big Brother players in the history of Big Brother, all things considered. Like, he really could be in that conversation. But all of that bad gameplay aside, I think he was super entertaining. Like, the fact that he brought so much drama within this first week, and most of it was done unintentionally. Like, Matt just, and his general demeanor and how he talked down to people unintentionally, like, it just brought so much drama, it brought so much chaos, and he built so many rivalries within that first week, and he wasn't even trying to do that. It was just kind of a matter of like a building of his own like actions, and he didn't even mean to do that. But all things aside, Matt was an absolutely horrible game player this season. I mean, you're gonna target the HOH the very first week, like when they're still in power, like it just makes no sense. And Matt just really handled a lot of the confrontations this season really badly. He spent way too much time building bonds with the wrong people at the wrong time, and it just made him such a big target that couldn't be ignored. And that is why he's the first house guest evicted from Big Brother 26, and here at number 16.
Where I'm not done yet. I'm still playing for you, Papa. I'll be alright. I want you to be proud of me.
Moving on to the players that are actually still in the house, at number 15, the house guest I believe to be in the worst position in the house is Kenney. And that's because he spent the entire first week moping. Like, he got nominated, which isn't a great position to be in, but is certainly recoverable, especially with this week, to where you have 2 opportunities to save yourself. But as soon as he gets nominated, he kind of just loses all hope. He doesn't make any efforts in trying to build any solid allies outside of Matt. Like, Matt of all people. Like, Kenney doesn't try to do anything solid outside of just building that ally, but that doesn't even really matter at the end of it because Matt ends up going home. So Kenney is truly alone at this point in the game. He has nobody. At one point in the week, he was even fine going home and letting Matt stay. At one point in the week, he was fine going home. Like, you've known him for a week. Like, Quinn said it best. Like, you've known this man for a week and you're willing to give it up so he can stay? Like, it doesn't make sense. But now that he is still here and he's still in the house, he has very little runway, he has no allies, and he's most likely going to be the easy pawn star for this early stages of the game until he's eventually taken out. Do I think he can recover? Possibly. I mean, anything can happen. It's the Big Brother house. But is it likely? Most likely not, because he wasted so much time building those critical bonds, building those crucial allies, and he just let it all go because he was discouraged. And it's really disappointing to see, considering how much hype there was around Kenney and how he was an alternate for Big Brother 25. So there was definitely a lot of hope for him to do well, but he's honestly letting us down with his lackluster gameplay, which is leaving him here at number 15.
You better believe I'm not giving up. I'm gonna show everyone what it means to be Boston strong in that AI arena.
A few moments later.
I'm a competitive person, but the emotions of being against Matt make it kind of difficult. I really thought I was a person that those emotions could be kept in check, and unfortunately, I'm learning something very new about me, that feelings and guilt and stuff.
At number 14, I have Lisa. And there is a genuine argument for me putting Lisa at number 15, because unlike Kenney, Lisa is an actual target. Like, people are actively targeting Lisa because Lisa has just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in this house. Like, she has a rivalry with Tucker because of the whole cooking situation, and Lisa's just getting on a lot of people's nerves with her edible glitter. Like, I'm genuinely convinced that Lisa's edible glitter might have, like, drugs in it or something, with how cracked this house has been in, like, the past recent days. But that's besides the point. Lisa does have one ally in Leah, but that's about it. Like, that's literally all she has. All she has is Leah. And with her being on the wrong side of this past vote, Lisa is probably in one of the worst positions in the house. And given how she conducts herself within the house, I don't think she's going to have that much leeway in this game in terms of improving her position or finding any sort of really solid alliance. I do think she is most likely the next boot if she doesn't win a competition to keep her safe. But even then, she's still going to be targeted throughout a majority of this pre-jury phase. Hell, even Quinn was talking about using his power just to frame Lisa. Like, that is crazy. You are wasting a power just to frame somebody, not even take them out, just to frame them. Like, it's absolutely insane. Like, why would you ever want to do that? But besides the point, Lisa is in a really bad position. She has very few allies, the only ally being Leah, and I just don't have that much confidence in her improving her position, which is why she's here at number 14.
I thought the connections that I was building was genuine and strong, and what was the question?
There's nowhere to cry in this house.
Right. At number 13, I have the first HOH of the season in Angela. And honestly, Angela could have been in a really good position in this week had she kept her emotions under control. Because of her really erratic and emotional behavior throughout this entire week, she was so unpredictable that now nobody wants to work with her. She honestly had a really solid power structure around her in the collective, but because she herself blew it up by saying that she doesn't believe the people who told her that and that it was like a low budget performance, like nobody really trusts Angela now. She is a huge target that is probably going to be taken out in these upcoming weeks. I mean, she does have some people who want to keep her around in the short term, but long term, I don't think Angela has any sort of runway. I don't know if Angela thought her HOH was going to last the whole 3 months or whatever, but for some reason, Angela just played this week so erratically for no really apparent reason. And I just don't really see much hope for Angela to do well in the future. Now, there's one part of Angela's game that I think is keeping her at the bottom, and it's a bit of a weird one, and it's that I think she's the most likely to be put up as America's nominee if Makensy were to use America's veto. It seems like a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way by how Angela was treating Matt in that first week. And if America's veto is being used like either this week or in very recent weeks, then Angela is most likely going to be that replacement nominee, and she's most likely going to be the one that goes home. And I think that leaves Angela in a really bad position to where she is a threat, people want to take her out, and she's most likely to get nominated by America. It's overall really bad, which is why I have Angela here at number 13.
I'm like, why? I can't believe that Mr. Casanova Crazy Eyes is threatened by me.
Freaking Crazy Eyes.
At number 12, I have Makensy, and Makensy spent her entire first week attached to the hip with Matt. But now that Matt is gone, she's now choosing to play Big Brother, and she is now choosing to go out and actually game and strategize with other people. Like, why were you not doing that in the first week? You had 10 days to go around to the other 14 people in the house to build some sort of alliances or allegiances or build any sort of strong personal one-on-one bonds. But instead, she chose to just stick by Matt's side. And now Makensy has literally like nobody in the house. Like, maybe she could like scrounge up an ally in like Leah or Leah, but like that isn't really that solid, and that's it considering how Leah has other better options. So Makensy is already in a pretty bad position, and because of her really close ties with Matt, she is now a pretty big target herself. However, the one thing that is keeping her safe, at least in the short term, is the fact that she has America's veto. To where even if she is put up as like a backdoor or something like that, she can use America's veto as a get out of jail free card, which is really good for her. But even after that power is used, she's still going to be in a pretty bad position, which is why I have her here at number 12.
My walls are up, but he's breaking them down maybe brick by brick, slowly by slowly.
At number 11, I have the winner of the first ever BB AI Arena in Kimo. And Kimo is this low because he was the week 1 pawn. He lost a lot of social capital because he is the week 1 pawn. I mean, that's why a lot of people talk about not wanting to be the week 1 nominee, because instead of gaming on the same level as everybody else, you are from the bottom looking up at other people to where other people hold your fate in their hands. And Kimo was unfortunately forced into that position until the very last second where he won the AI Arena, which is great for his game. Like, did you see the reactions he got? Everybody was ecstatic that he won, and everybody wanted Kimo to stay. And even if he didn't win the AI Arena, Kimo was going to stay anyways. So it was great in that sense. But in terms of his position, it's really not horrible. I know I did mention that he did lose a lot of social capital, but I think him being the week 1 pawn actually built him a lot of sympathy within the house to where he was able to build really strong bonds with some of the outsiders. He has a really, and I mean really strong bond with T-Core, and I think that is going to carry him pretty far in this game. He also has a pretty good alliance with all of the have-nots between himself, Cam, Quinn, and Tucker called the Mr. Anderson's Alliance. And I think that could take him really far. So as long as Kimo really locks in on these loyalties and continues branching out and doesn't allow himself to be expendable and be other people's pawns, he could definitely improve his position. But as it stands right now, the time that he lost being the week 1 pawn really tanked his social positioning, which is why he is here at number 11.
Depending on who wins AI Arena, there's like a million different scenarios for eviction. There's me versus Kenney, there's me versus Matt, there's Kenney versus Matt. Okay, only 3, but it's making people non-committal about how they'll vote.
At number 10, I have T-Core. And T-Core is in a bit of a weird position to where she's like not necessarily in the power alliances or like the power structure, but she's like power structure adjacent, if that makes sense, to where she's not necessarily like in the alliances, but the people who are in the alliances want to keep T-Core around, and that's pretty good. However, that does leave her expendable. Like, she could be offered up as an easy pawn. Hell, that's what happened this week when Matt was campaigning to not be put up as the replacement nominee. He was throwing T-Core's name out there under the bus, and T-Core almost went up as the replacement nominee. Mind you, T-Core is smart and actually rejected this offer, but still, T-Core was being campaigned hard to go up as the replacement nominee, and this just spells really bad for T-Core's position within the game. Now, T-Core has done a really good job at branching out to some of the like quote-unquote outsider people and building really strong bonds with them. So I think if T-Core continues doing that in these early weeks, T-Core could put herself in a very strong position moving forward in this week. Even though she's not even in any of these like really core alliances, I think if T-Core is able to like lock in on these one-on-one bonds that she has and really evolve them from just personal bonds to game bonds to genuine alliances, I think T-Core could be in a really good position. But as it stands right now, she's pretty expendable to everybody in the house, and she doesn't have any core alliances protecting her at this point, so that is why I have her here at number 10.
Regardless, the way that Angela is handling this is definitely not the tactic that I would have personally used.
At number 9, I have Leah. And it's really disappointing to have Leah this low considering how high I had her earlier in the week. If I was posting this video after day 3 or day 4 of the feeds, I would have had Leah at like number 2 or number 3 because she was genuinely in a great position. She was building genuine sides with both sides of the house. Like, she has the final 3 alliance called the Throwmans with Matt and Makensy, but then she's also being roped into some of the power structures being built on the other side of the house with the likes of like Quinn and Angela wanting to work really well with Leah. However, she kind of tanks herself because of how closely she associates herself with the Throwmans in Matt and Makensy, and that really tanks all of her social capital. I remember sometime on the live feeds, Angela was giving Leah an out. Angela was giving Leah an opportunity for Leah to kind of expose what Matt and Makensy have been doing, but Leah chose to stay silent and withhold that information, and that sowed a lot of mistrust between Leah and the rest of the house, to where she was no longer being included in all of these alliances because out of the fear that she was going to leak information to Matt and Makensy. And as a result, her position in this game has tanked severely, and now Leah is in a very bad position to where she might get put up as a pawn next to Makensy just to ensure that Makensy could go home, or somebody on Makensy's side is going to go home, and that's really bad. Now, I think once Makensy leaves, I think Leah's going to be in a pretty good position considering she has really strong and solid one-on-one bonds with some of the power players like Quinn and Cam and Cedric. Like, I think Leah could recover, but with Makensy still in the house, it's doing a lot of damage to her game. So I think once she can either get Makensy out of the house or disassociate herself from Makensy, I think Leah's going to be in a pretty good position. But as it stands right now, I'm not too positive about her game, but she still has some potential, which is why she's here at number 9.
Everybody knows, like, Matt and Makensy, same room, they sleep next to each other. If they are a showmance, like, woohoo, like, I couldn't possibly care less because I'm here for numbers, baby.
At number 8, I have Rubina. And while we did lose one Filipino this week in Matt, we have another Filipina doing very well this week in Rubina. And it's kind of weird. Like, Rubina isn't necessarily like gaming that hard. Like, she's not going out making alliances and actively strategizing with other people and trying to play this puppet master role within the house. Like, she's genuinely just going around building really solid one-on-one bonds with people, and she's kind of being naturally roped into certain things. Like, she's not necessarily like within like the core of any sort of like big alliance or any big power structure, but Rubina is still being brought into the loop about a lot of things going on within the house, and it's honestly benefiting her really, really well. She's kind of in this under the radar position to where nobody's looking at Rubina as a threat or somebody that needs to be taken out in the short term. Hell, I haven't even seen people talk about putting Rubina up as like a pawn, or somebody like, oh, we just need to ensure that we have a number not voting. Like, I haven't even seen that happen with Rubina, and so that gives me a lot of hopes about her game. She's kind of doing the same thing as T-Core, where she's aligning herself with some of the outsiders, such as T-Core and Kimo, and she's honestly doing a really good job at that. And if she can continue building up this sort of quote-unquote outsiders alliance that can combat the major like core alliance with that's currently standing right now, I think Rubina is going to be in a really good position. I just don't want her to game too hard too fast or feel like she needs to overcompensate her gameplay because of how seemingly passive she's been in this first week, because I think in these early weeks, if she can maintain this kind of low-key, kind of under the radar type of socializing, I think she's going to be in a great position moving forward, which is why I have her here at number 8.
Wait, what? Everybody wants to keep you? You have numbers? Look at Matt. That is the exact kind of person you want to send home. But the last thing you want to do is be the wrong side of the vote. I guess we're doing this.
At number 7, I have Joseph. And Joseph is in kind of a similar position to Leah, to where if I made this power ranking earlier in the week, I would have had Joseph pretty high, like number 2 or possibly even number 1. But as the week went on, Joseph lost a lot of really good positioning. I think the whole blow up with Angela going after Matt and blowing up the collective really tanked his game, to where Joseph no longer wants to work with Angela, despite Angela being a very good ally to Joseph, at least in the short term. It makes sense why Joseph would want to disassociate himself with Angela, but still, I think it would have been nice to at least have Angela in his back pocket to keep around, to kind of keep around a meat shield in Angela. I think that would have been better for his game, but still, Joseph's not in a bad position whatsoever. I think he still has a lot of really solid allies that want to take him far in this game. He does have final twos that actually want to go to the end of this game with him, such as Tucker, and I think that those bonds could really, and I mean really, take Joseph pretty far. It's really impressive, all of the work that Joseph did in the first couple of days, and the fact that he was able to do it so early on when things were so chaotic. I have confidence that Joseph is going to be able to rebuild his position yet again and put himself back in that power position that he lost after those first couple of days. So as long as Joseph can put in the work that he was putting in these first couple of days, I have no doubts that Joseph could put himself back in the power position. But because he lost so much ground due to Angela's blow up and his lack of like active recovery, I have to keep Joseph here at number 7.
And if I'm supposed to be her close ally, I gotta be one of the first people to tell her.
The next day.
If this is how Angela's gonna act for the rest of the season as my ally, then I don't know if I can work with her anymore.
At number 6, I have Tucker. And it's weird having Tucker this high. Like, the first couple days of this game, Tucker was actively telling other people that he doesn't want to strategize and that he doesn't want to commit himself to any alliances because he wants to see where the chips fall and see where he falls in this puzzle. And that's a really bad strategy, or it should be a really bad strategy on paper, because you're actively leaving yourself out of any sort of alliances and you're leaving yourself out of any sort of like strategy making within these very crucial first couple of days. But somehow, with how chaotic this house has been, it's actually benefited Tucker. Like, Tucker is in a really good position and Tucker is being brought into a lot of things, and honestly, it's working out really well for him. He has this Mr. Anderson's alliance with Cam, Quinn, and Kimo, and that's doing him dividends. He also has a really solid bond with Angela, to where Tucker is now being used as a weapon to target some of the bigger threats in the house, like Lisa. And if Tucker can pull kind of this move where you win an HOH and take out an easy threat to make it seem like you're doing stuff for the house. If Tucker can go down that route and how he wins competitions, I think Tucker could put himself in a really good position. He has a really solid foundation and he just needs to build at this point. And it's honestly kind of impressive that he was able to build this fast, considering how he wasn't gaming the first half of this week. So the fact that he was able to build so many strong like personal bonds with other people one-on-one, it's kind of showing that Tucker has a lot of potential in terms of his social game and building these alliances and building these allegiances. So Tucker really could do very well. It's just a matter of him actually doing it. And do I think he can do it? Probably, which is why I have him here at number 6.
She came down the stairs clapping. I'm thinking we're about to have a party up in here. Whoops. Read that wrong.
At number 5, I have Cedric. And if you can't tell, everybody in the top 5 is in the Pentagon. I think the Pentagon is the core power structure as it stands in the house right now, and I think they're going to be running the early stages of this game if they can keep things under wraps and keep things together. But the reason I have Cedric so low is that I think he is in the most danger out of everybody in the Pentagon. Despite Cedric being in the core of the Pentagon, like literally the core with Cam and Chelsie, I think Cedric is still being perceived as the biggest target out of them. Like if anybody within the Pentagon were to get targeted, I think it would be Cedric. I think there is this bit of a perception of him being a bigger threat because of how he has been strategizing so much within this first week, because he was overcompensating for the fact that he was the BBAI mascot. And in regards to him being the BBAI mascot, he did a really good job in terms of turning this downgrade into a huge upgrade. Like he might not have like an explicit power that allows him to change the game, but he used his downgrade to build a lot of social capital, and he was using this as a lot of good leeway to where people were strategizing with him, but nobody was looking to Cedric for a vote, which honestly put him in a really safe position to where he could just strategize with people and build this really good trust with other people, and where people want to bring him into alliances and people want to trust him. And that is what happened. Cedric is now in a lot of good alliances. I mean, he has the core and now he has the Pentagon, and he formerly had the Collective before it blew up. So Cedric honestly has a lot of good options and a lot of good allies in terms of his game as of right now. The only issue I have with him in terms of being this low in regards to the Pentagon, like in terms of this whole list, he's high. Like him being number 5 is really high. But the reason he is this low in the Pentagon is because he is probably the first one to be targeted out of this 5. If this 5 were to ever be exposed, or for anybody to make assumptions about this 5, Cedric would most likely be the first person to be targeted. And that does give me some worries about his game in that sense. But overall, I think Cedric's in a really good position. And if he can maintain this, I think he's going to be set up for the long term very well, which is why I have him here at number 5.
So, you know, Matt approaches me with a big alliance, and I'm thinking, I ain't got no other option. Angela killed the Collective, and this week I'm a BB downgrade, so I don't even got to vote. It doesn't cost me nothing to say yes. I don't got no dogs in the fight.
At number 4, I have Cam. And it's weird having Cam this low in terms of the Pentagon because he's in the core just like Cedric. Like Cam has a lot of influence within the Pentagon in terms of him being like one of the core founding members of this alliance. However, Cam doesn't have like any bonds outside of the core, outside of the Pentagon. Like he has like unspoken like really good bonds with the likes of like Leah, but in terms of like actual like dead set allies, like I'm going to take you to the end of this game, I want to go final 2 with you, Cam doesn't have that. I mean, even within the Pentagon or the core with like Cam, Cedric, and Chelsie, it's obvious that Cedric and Chelsie are each other's number 1s, and Cam is the obvious 3rd who would be taken out in 3rd place. So Cam worries me a lot in the fact that he doesn't have any ride or die allies who want to take him super far in this game, which does worry me. However, in this short term, he's in an amazing position. He's not being targeted despite him being a very athletic looking dude who could win a lot of competitions if they were to be super physical. So that should put a target on Cam's back. However, it's not. And I think it's because of his really good social work he's doing. He's kind of pacifying the other players into making him seem like he's more of a social player than a physical player. And it's really paying off dividends for his game. And if he can maintain this, I think Cam is going to be in a really good position. I keep saying this for a lot of these players in the upper echelon, but that's this game of Big Brother. You need to continuously work on your position, even if you are in the upper half, and even if you are in a good position, you can always do more work to put yourself in a better position. And for Cam, he just needs to solidify any sort of final twos, any sort of ride or dies, and I think he's going to be much higher on this list. But because he doesn't have any ride or dies at this point in the game, I have him here at number 4.
I don't know how long this was gonna last, so am I gonna keep Matt? I don't know.
At number 3, I have Brooklyn. And I had a lot of preconceived notions about Brooklyn before this season because of the fact that Brooklyn is best friends with Aaron from Big Brother 15. So I definitely had like a lot of assumptions about Brooklyn. But in terms of the way she's playing this game, she's doing a pretty dang good job. She's being included in the Pentagon, which was a complete surprise to me. Like, out of everybody they were going to choose, Brooklyn was definitely like the last person I thought they were going to include in the Pentagon, but she's in the alliance nonetheless, and this is going to put her in a really good position, considering the fact that she still has such good ties with everybody outside of the Pentagon. Like, she has a final 2 with Angela, with them being the moms. She has really solid ties with a lot of the other women in the house, especially the likes of like a Makensy, like, which is really rare. Like, if Makensy were to win in HOH, Brooklyn would not be a target, and that puts her in a really good position to not only protect herself, but to protect her allies that are also in the Pentagon. And so Brooklyn is in a really great position in terms of that. However, the only reason she's not in like the top 2 is just because she doesn't have as many ties as the people in the top 2. And that's saying a lot, considering how many ties Brooklyn has to people on the other side of the house. Brooklyn just doesn't have as many ties as the people in the number 2 and the number 1 spot, which doesn't mean she doesn't have a lot of ties. It's just that she doesn't have as many as the people in those top 2 positions. So because of that, Brooklyn is here at number 3.
If someone like Matt is on the block week 1, you gotta send him packing. But he's telling me he has all of these numbers, and this seems like it's gonna be a really strong alliance. And I absolutely don't wanna be on the wrong side of a vote.
At number 2, I have Chelsie. And Chelsie did an amazing job this week. Like, if Cedric did an amazing job, Chelsie did a phenomenal job. She was in the same position as Cedric, to where she didn't have any formal power this week. However, she turned her downgrade into a huge upgrade. She is such a good speaker, and it makes sense considering like her like line of work and things like that. But Chelsie has just done an amazing job at speaking herself into the right conversations and building a lot of trust with those key players. In the early days of the season, she built really strong bonds with the likes of Joseph and Angela, and Chelsie was secretly running Angela's HOH from the shadows, influencing a lot of her decisions, and was basically one of the first people to plant that seed in Angela's head that Matt was a big threat, and was kind of playing on Angela's paranoia about Matt at that point in time. So Chelsie did essentially a really good job in not only getting a huge threat in Matt out, but essentially inadvertently tanking Angela's game as well. So Chelsie still has that good bond with Angela, but Chelsie is in a good position outside of that. I think she has ties with nearly everybody in the entire house. She gets along really well with the women. She's getting along really well with some of the guys even outside of the Pentagon. And I think if Chelsie continues to maintain this solid position without blowing her cover, I think Chelsie is going to be in this for the long haul, which is honestly really, really impressive to see. Like, the fact that she was able to do so much good work without a vote. Without a vote is crazy. And I'm honestly thoroughly impressed with Chelsea's work. And while she's not in the number 1 position, she's doing an amazing job. And I can definitely see her making it to the end game if she maintains this, which is why I have her here at number 2.
Oh, woe is me. I'm so hot. I only use water in my hair and it's always perfect. Like, are you serious?
At number 1, the house guest I believe to be in the best position in the Big Brother 26 house as of week 1 is Quinn. And Quinn really surprised me. Like, in the preseason, Quinn was kind of giving me a lot of Turner vibes from Big Brother 24, but it seems like Quinn is like Turner, except like he's actually sociable and he's actually doing really well in these early weeks. No offense to you, Turner, if you end up watching this, but Quinn is doing a lot of good work. Something that I noted that he does very well, that he did in the early in the early days of this game was conversating a lot. Like, he not necessarily conversating a lot to where he was giving up a lot of information, but he always included himself in core conversations and was waiting until he was included in whatever alliance was being discussed at that point before exiting the room and going to a different conversation to where he would be included in a different alliance. Like, he was included in Matt's initial power structure and then went on to go build a final two with Angela, the exact opposition of Matt. Like, Quinn was just doing so much good social work in this first week that he set himself up beautifully. Like, he has genuine ties with so many people in this house, and so many people want to take Quinn far in this game, and I'm genuinely impressed. Like, I did not expect Quinn to do this well in the preseason, but I'm thoroughly impressed by him, and I'm honestly really excited to see how he handles this power, if he recognizes it. Now, if there is anything to critique his game, I don't particularly like how he's divulging information about his deepfake HOH. He's telling way too many people his plan. Like, I believe he told Angela and he told Kimo. And now multiple people not only know about his power, but what he wants to do with said power. And his plans to what to do with this power are dumb in and of itself. Like, he wants to win an HOH and then use it on himself to blame somebody else. Like, that just feels like such a waste. Like, why would you ever want to do that? But if that's what Quinn wants to do, and in all honesty, I don't think he's actually going to do this. I think he's kind of just like throwing ideas at the board and seeing what sticks. And I don't think this is going to stick. But if he does end up doing this, it's really dumb and it's going to really hurt my opinion on him as a game player. But as it stands right now, he is in a great position. He has so many ride or dies, so many good allies that I had to put him here at number 1.
Kenny's trying to be a hero. He's like, I can't flip on my boy Matty. Oh man, Matty's so cool. I gotta put him first over me, my family, my food truck. He's known him for a week. A week!
Overall, this week 1 of HOH has felt so long because of how much information and how much chaos was being ensued this week. I mean, we had fights nearly every single day. We obviously had like the televised fight of Angela versus Matt, but there were even more unbridled rivalries brewing underneath the surface, like Tucker versus Lisa, Tucker versus Matt, and Tucker versus Matt and Makensy. Okay, maybe it was just a lot of like Tucker getting into fights, but still, like, there were so many rivalries just brewing underneath the surface during this first week alone. Like, it was serving so much old school Big Brother. Like, we haven't seen this much chaotic energy in the Big Brother house in a very, very long time. These people are crazy. They're here to play the game. They are willing to get into fights. They're willing to get in each other's faces. It's amazing. And as a super fan of Big Brother, I can't believe I get to watch and experience all of this live. I have so much hope and so much like unbridled joy. Like, I have so much like potential joy that could go into this season if everything turns out as chaotic and as entertaining as this first week has been. But if Big Brother 25 taught me anything, it's to not get my hopes up too high, because everything could come crashing down with a zombie week. I'm just kidding. But those are just my thoughts. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you have any of those, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.
You know, this is the time you can pull someone into a room and talk quietly, because you're both going to talk in front of everyone. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, I think my thing, I mean, I've tried to play my cards there. All y'all know where I stand.